Good afternoon, welcome to the webinar. My name is Kath Smith and I shall be going through today's presentation on Herd Companion and the KPI section specifically, which we have revamped and updated, modernised and made much more in keeping with the rest of the site. Now I'm just checking my attendees. We've got a few people just coming in around about now, so I'll just go through the introductions to start with anyway. So let me minimize that one. Welcome along if this is your first webinar with us. Do hope you find it useful. We do these, try and do a webinar every month on different topics. Just as a bit of housekeeping, if you haven't seen this before, there is a question pane to the right of your screen, little control panel there. You can type in a question at any time, and I usually leave those to the end and then come to them in turn. And alternatively to that, if it's easier, just click on the hand button again on your toolbar so you can actually ask a question directly if you want to, save you typing all that time. I'll just make sure you could all hear me at this stage. It's all looking good so far, but yeah, should be able to hear me with the computer audio, so just make sure it's set to that as we go through. Okay, so without further ado, I shall go into the NMR website. Let's go into here. There we go. Now, what we're doing today then is looking at the KPI section specifically. That is the bit that has changed, and this screen now is the landing page of Herd Companion. So when you first log in, this is what you see. This panel sometimes changes from time to time, so it's more of an advertising feature. And we can get to the KPIs. There's three ways to get there. So it doesn't matter which way around you go. You can, whichever route you find most comfortable. We do have sort of replications on the menus simply because certain topics fit into more than one category. So under production is the first one. You find the KPIs down here. We've got breeding and fertility. So again, it all relates to that. We've got the new KPIs here. And then herd performance, you can see it's on the right-hand side there as well. So they are all exactly the same options. And if you've seen this before, I mean, the KPI section has been there since day one, really, when we first had Herd Companion all those years ago. But we've now, if you haven't seen it, don't feel disadvantaged at all. Absolutely fine. So we've got then just a better sort of, in keeping with the rest of the site, basically, the arrangement here. So we've got production KPIs as the first option, and you can see within this overall banner, there are now these categories here. So everything is linked together. You can jump to any bit from any bit, which wasn't the case beforehand. So in the production section, I'll just bring this down a little bit, we can see the date, and then the different categories across the top here. So these ones, as the name suggests, relating to milk production. We've also got milk quality and cell count, lactation length, and so on. And these are rolling 12-month values for your herd. It goes up to the end of the last complete month from a recording perspective. So if you see, like we're in May now, but this, if we haven't recorded in May yet, we're not going to see April. So this is why it might look like it's a couple of months out of date, but that is actually the case, just depending on, it will always be at least 1 month behind, just because, we don't process the data until the recording has been finished. So that's perfectly fine. You can also see we've got a couple of extra columns options here, as we have with a lot of features in Herd Companion, and some benchmarks. So we'll come on to those in a second. The extra columns on here, all the production ones are listed. These are actually related to the fertility ones. But if you wanted to chop and change your order, you can drag a column across into your table. I'll just show you how to do that now, and then you've got it for future reference. So if age at first calving you wanted alongside this bit here, we can just literally drag and drop and slot it into that table. Okay, and the same also if you wanted to maybe print something off and there's too many columns showing here, you can lift this one, take it out and pop it back into there. So it's just like a temporary little holder, really. Okay, so that's production. We have then fertility KPIs. relating to bits within the herd for things like average lactations. We've got the proportion of the herd in parity 1, so lactation 1 here, age at first calving in days, there's a calving interval, there's also a calving interval less than 385%. And what this one means essentially is 100-day in calf rate. So what it's looking for is a cow calves, obviously we've got a calving date. She then, we wait until she's calved again. We can work out then, was she served at 100 days or in calf by 100 days, yes or no? If it's yes, then it's under 385 days, as the gestation period is 280 days. So you see there's the logic. So some of these figures are calculated historically. They might well differ to other figures that you're looking at in software. So certainly, you know, just be mindful of that if you are comparing the two together. And we've got a culling rate and a death rate as well. So those are all the raw figures. Quite interesting, but looking at numbers, you don't always get the same effect as you would a graph. So that leads us nicely onto the KPI graphs here. So for all of those different parameters, we can then start to do some nice benchmarking. So this one just picks out one of the first ones at random, milk per cow per year of life. And then this is the benchmark group that I can compare my herd to. So as it suggests, we've got Holstein herds less than or equal to 100 cows. So just check then that you've got the most appropriate group for your herd. And you can see on the drop down, these are all of the groups that we have. So there are some based on herd size, lactation yield, milk per cow per year, we've got breed specific ones and organic herds as well. And each of these benchmark groups contains 50 herds. They've been recording for at least 5 years. They are updated every so often just to make sure they're still recording and active, and they haven't obviously changed their criteria. That's it basically in terms of rules for appearing in a group, and obviously they meet the criteria of that group description. So for this herd, I'm on the demo herd, so you're welcome to look at this at any time as well as your own. I'll pick out this one, which is more in keeping. We're about 250 cows on here, I think. And then I've got my initial KPI, so milk per cow per year of life. I can see my values. Now, as you hover the mouse over, you see you get this grid here, so you can read off the figures precisely. I'll just move my mouse aside for a minute. So the pink line is me, that's what my herd is doing. The solid green line, that one there, is the average for the group. So you see BMG, benchmark group mean. And then the green area that's coloured in is the range. So within that benchmark group, there is one herd across the top here, and it might not be the same herd all the way along. And then there's another herd that's achieving this much down here. And below the graph, you can then see the data as well behind it. So we've got the current herd, so this is you, the minimum BMG, so the lowest herd in that group compared to the average, and the highest one. Okay, and you'll see that the style of these grids as well, much the same again as we've got with the iReports and the rest of Herd Companion. So you've got your filtering and your sorting by clicking on the date header or whichever header you like. So with all of these, you can swap your KPI. So let's have a look at cell count. There we go. So compared to that same group from herd size, my cell count, I'm better than average for that one in terms of cells being lower. And then I can swap group. So if we look at lactation yield, and your graph will then update accordingly. So it gives you a really good idea of where you sit compared to other herds of a similar type. Now, if you are a third party and you have lots of clients on Herd Companion, so you've got a list of herds in which you can look at the data, we have this option here. So at any time you can go into benchmarks and set up your own groups. So this obviously doesn't work if it's just you on your own or one herd, but yeah, for third parties in particular, so for vets and consultants, nutritionists, anyone with a few herds that they want to compare, you can create a new group and then add specific herds to that group. So they can be, for whatever reason you like, it might be management policies, it could be, you know, geography within your location, it could be organic, not organic, certain criteria that they meet. Whatever groupings you want to do, you can then set up your own ones within Herd Companion. So that's how it's done there. I'll just go back a step. But the NMR groups, certainly for each individual herd, these ones are available to everybody. So once we've had a good play with the different KPIs and the different groupings, it's really nice to be able to put them all together. And that's in this one. So you don't have to follow the logic of going through each step. You can just go straight to the at a glance if you like. That's absolutely fine. So now we've got all of the KPI parameters, so the production and the fertility together. The range of the group is now this blue line going across. So we've got a worst in inverted commas and a best. So those are the actual values there. That's your herd. That's your values there as well. And then it's shown on the grid with a green block. And again, we've got some interaction here. So you can actually read off the percentage along the range that you sit and what your actual value is. So for the cell count, we knew we were pretty good. We're back on the lactation group there. So yeah, 58% along the range, again as a rolling 12-month value. You'll see on this one, we have a little black triangle and a little highlight in red. So we are actually outside the range of that group. Now, it depends what it is, and there's all sorts of interpretations, of course, but the worst one in that group, if you like, is 80 days. We're actually 81. The best is 41. So just that side of the group. Not a problem at all. It just depends, you know, have you got the right group selected for your herd? Because if you choose something that really doesn't fit with your description, you could end up with a few more black arrows. So 1 or 2 is not a problem, but if you're starting to see, you know, 4 or 5 or 6, it's probably we need to compare to a different group really to give yourself a fair representation within that. Or it could be that you're absolutely right, you are within that benchmark group, just so happens you are the worst or you are the best. So yeah, it's all interesting stuff anyway. And then the final screen puts a bit more together as well, KPI comparison by herd. So we drill down on the data for each of those benchmark groups. So again, very similar. We've got our KPI here. So it remembers from the previous screen, we were looking at cell count and we're in the lactation yield group here. So this is the graph to show us where we sit. So really visual to see, this is me in yellow, I'm herd 1, H1, and this is the range of that group in descending order for each of the herds in the group. So there are 50 lines on the graph in total. Again, we can hover over. So the lowest one, 71, the highest one, close to 450. Remember, this is rolling 12 months cell count, so a bit interesting there. And then the raw data behind it. So all of the herds are anonymous. All we know is that H1 is me. So this yellow one is my herd. Again, we can use filtering. So you can sort by any of the parameters again, just to see, okay, we're looking at cell count now. Where do we fit in the average fat scheme of things? So that just positions us pretty much in the middle as well. And then right at the bottom, you've got a mean average line for all of the herds together. So it works in exactly the same way as the rest of the site. As I say, it's just a summary to show you that we've made it a bit more modern, really. And again, we can swap this round. So let's have a look at age at first calving. And that just refreshes by itself. So there's no apply button or anything to do. There we go. So that puts us down this end of the table. And so on. And then, of course, all of these grids and tables you can actually export if you want to pop it into Excel or something like that. Okay, it wasn't going to be a long one today because it's only a short section, but I hope that's given you a flavour of how it all works, really. And as with anything on Herd Companion, you know, you can jump from there to anywhere, so you can always go back into it or check out something else on the site at the same time. So happy to take any questions. I'll just check on my question pane. If you're frantically typing, just I'll just give you a moment there. Absolutely fine. No questions so far. No problem at all. But yeah, just if you are typing, don't panic. I will come to you and give you a minute to finish that in. But it might be you think of something afterwards. Just to sort of end the presentation, we have on my PowerPoint here. We always record these webinars and pop them onto the website when they're done. So under the software banner on the NMR website, you'll find this under training and training webinars, and we've also got a YouTube channel there. At the end of this one, when I click finish, it will open up a survey. I'd be very grateful if you would fill that in, just a couple of multiple choice questions on future developments for Herd Companion. If there's something that you feel is missing, it is multiple choice, so I have filled in some answers in terms of different options that we're looking at, but yeah, I'd be really pleased to receive some feedback on what you think is a higher priority. Okay, and then there's some details on here. If you do have any questions subsequently, by all means drop me an email, or you can follow me on Twitter. So yeah, or any ideas for future webinars, absolutely give us a shout. So that's lovely. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. So it didn't take very long, but we'll look to do some more webinars on other areas of Herd Companion. Yeah, pending what feedback you give us as well. Thank you very much. Have a good day.